Okay. We have more video that you sent us of you, in fact, trying to launch a drone, and it was right near an airport. So tell us what happened there and why it's so noteworthy.
Okay, so we got reports last night that there was a lot of drone activity in the East Hanover area, which backs up to Morristown Airport and all that vicinity. So we head out there. We set up in a parking lot about a quarter mile away from the airport, and I'm trying to get flight clearance to take the drone up and see what this other drone is, and I cannot. Restricted. I tried to bypass it. At one point, it even asked for my phone number, and I said, no, I think we're good at this point.
Okay, now hang on. When you say looking for flight clearance, how does that work? I mean, are you literally talking with a control tower, or what are you doing?
So there's an app that you use to connect to the drone. When it's time, when you want to fly, you press a button, and what it does is it looks for flight clearance or restrictions. And what happened was there was a restriction in that area, and I couldn't get up, but there were drones in the air that weren't following the restriction. Now, we verify everything above us with flight radar, so we can tell if it's an airplane or if it's not. None of the things that we go after are on flight radar.
Okay, so what we're looking at, this device notwithstanding, this control for your drone, if drones are getting into areas without clearance by the FAA, is it possible they figured out some kind of a technology to keep their drones from being jammed and or losing power?
Absolutely, absolutely. I don't know if you're aware, last week or so, 2 weeks when this started, I tried to take my drone over Picatinny Arsenal to follow a drone that was just hovering over there. And as I got closer, my drone lost power, spun out, and the battery died, and it went down. But the other drone remained sitting in the air unaffected.
Why? What do you think?
No. Secrets that the government don't want us to know, and they're playing stupid. Either that or aliens.
Oh, come on. Not the latter. Okay, okay, you're smiling. All right, I'm glad. All right. So are there enough restrictions for drones? You're a drone user. Are those restrictions taken seriously by your colleagues, your friends that are drone users as well? Or is more regulation needed? And if it went out there, would it be followed?
I think people are always going to find a way around the regulations. I don't think the average user can get around it because without that app and without that clearance, your drone will not go in there. It just sits there with a red light. So if they did more restrictions, I don't know that they would be followed.
What do you make of the number that the FBI says of all those reports they've gotten? 5,000 reports, fewer than 100 or so warranting further investigation. What do you think would warrant further investigation or exploration? What is it that would pop up that they'd say, yeah, we got to look at this?
I would start with drones hovering over military bases, which I live right next to, and I watch them. They go back and forth. They leave for a little bit. They come back. They hover around. Nothing happens. No one does anything. They just sit there and watch them hover in the air.
But you don't know that those aren't intentionally there, right? That they have been cleared.
Could be. We don't have information on drones. When I go onto a flight radar app, I can only see whatever aircraft is registered in the sky at that moment. And drones are not part of that.
People have, at least Secretary Mayorkas, he had suggested before yesterday that these were all fixed-wing aircraft, these dozens and dozens and dozens of sightings. Now he's saying mostly that, but there are some that are just drones. What's your expectation of this? If it's fixed-wing aircraft, why is it so hard to tell the difference?
So I believe the misconception is when we say drone, people are picturing like my recreational drone. It's got the 4 propellers, and they can get very loud. The drones that we're seeing are like mini aircraft. They look like airplanes, but at the distance they are at, they're too small to be airplanes. They're too small to be aircraft, and they're not on the registration for the flight radar. So they do look like airplanes. And that's what's confusing people because they look up and they say, okay, that looks like an airplane, but it's not. It's a small drone.